Hello my angling friends, and welcome back to the channel. I'm your resident fishing expert, and today we're diving deep into the fishing forecast for a very specific day, Friday, the 23rd of January, 2026. You might be thinking January in Ireland, that's going to be tough, and you'd be right, it's definitely a challenging time of year. But let me tell you friends, with the right approach and a little inside knowledge, this day could still hold some incredible surprises. We're going to break down exactly what the conditions will be like, what fish are biting, and how you can maximize your chances of a trophy catch. Get ready, because even in the heart of winter, Ireland's waters can deliver. All right friends, let's talk about our prime targets for this chilly January day. Based on typical winter activity in Ireland, we're going to focus on three hardy species that aren't afraid of a bit of cold: the mighty pike, the resilient cod, and the ever-present roach. First up, the freshwater behemoth, the pike. These predators remain active even when the water cools down, but their metabolism slows, meaning they're far less likely to chase fast-moving baits. So, where to look? Forget the shallow margins for now. My experience tells me they'll be holed up in deeper, slower sections of rivers, deep holes in canals and along drop-offs in lakes, especially where there's soft mud or good cover. What to use? This is prime time for static methods, my friends. A well-presented dead bait like a float-fished or ledgered herring or mackerel, positioned right on the bottom, can be absolutely lethal for a big, lethargic pike. You can also use large, soft plastic lures, but retrieve them incredibly slowly, almost dragging them along the bottom. Remember, patience is absolutely key here. When the bites will be deliberate, so be ready for subtle takes. Next, for my sea angling companions, the resilient cod. These are definitely on the cards along the stunning Irish coast, especially on the south coast, after a good storm has stirred up the seabed. With sea temperatures hovering around 9 to 10 degrees Celsius, these coastal opportunities are always there, even in the depths of winter. From a boat, focus particularly on rough ground, reefs, and even wrecks. From the shore, sandy beaches that feature deeper gullies or rocky outcrops are ideal ambush points, as they'll be searching for easy meals in the stirred-up water. What to catch them on? A sturdy surf rod with a fixed pattern or running ledger rig is your best bet. Natural baits like fresh peeler crabs or large lugworms are far more effective than artificials in winter. Strips of mackerel or herring can also work wonders. Cast your bait into those calmer pockets behind sandbanks and let the scent do the work. And finally, for our coarse fishing friends, the humble but reliable roach are still very much on the cards. These fish are active in winter and, like many coarse fish, will be found in rivers, lakes, and canals. On a cold January day, they'll typically be deeper, often congregating in slower-moving sections of rivers, deep holes in canals, or along drop-offs in lakes, especially where there's soft mud. What to use, a light feeder or waggler setup, is perfect. Small hooks, sizes 18 to 22, are best. For bait, natural offerings are king. Small red maggots, bloodworm, or a tiny piece of bread punch will often entice a bite. Ground bait, rich in finely crushed particles, will help draw them in without overfeeding. Now let's break down the conditions influencing our fishing on January 23rd, 2026. First, the weather. Based on typical Irish January patterns, we're looking at a cool, damp, and breezy day. Average air temperatures will likely hover around 5 to 8 degrees Celsius during the day, dropping to 2 to 3 degrees Celsius overnight. We can expect frequent rain, possibly light, with a 27% chance of precipitation. Wind speeds will average around 25 to 28 kilometers per hour, a moderate breeze likely coming from the northwest or north, keeping things feeling crisp. Atmospheric pressure often sees changeable conditions in January. A declining high-pressure system, coupled with cold, typically makes fish more lethargic, pushing them into deeper, more stable waters to conserve energy. However, a low-pressure drop can sometimes stimulate feeding activity just before or during the change. The limited daylight hours, with the sun rising around 8:29 a.m. and setting around 4:38 p.m., also mean fish will be conserving energy and feeding less actively. Next, water temperature. Inland waters, like our loughs and rivers, will be hovering around 4 to 7 degrees Celsius. Along the coast, sea temperatures will be chilly, ranging from around 8 to 10 degrees Celsius. Remember, water takes longer to warm and cool than air, so while the air is cold, the water is relatively more stable, but still significantly cold for fish metabolism. This cold water is the biggest factor, my friends. It drastically slows down fish metabolism, meaning they're not going to be moving much or chasing anything quickly. They'll be conserving energy and huddling in the warmest, most comfortable spots they can find. Moving on to the moon phase on the 23rd of January 2026, well be under a waxing crescent moon. The illuminated surface of the moon will be around 22 to 24% and growing larger. This is the phase where the moon has just started to become visible again after the new moon and is steadily becoming more illuminated. Popular fishing lore often suggests that fishing can improve as the moon progresses towards its first quarter, bringing an increase in light. While it's not the peak activity of a full moon, the growing aspect is generally seen as a positive sign, though in deep winter its influence might be less pronounced than temperature and pressure. It simply reinforces the need for patience and careful presentation. So, what does all this mean for overall fish activity? Given the cold air and water temperatures, the frequent precipitation, changeable atmospheric pressure, and the waxing crescent moon, overall fish activity across Ireland will be on the capricious to moderate side for January 23rd. The cold will generally slow things down and fish will be in their winter holding patterns, feeding, but not voraciously. Success will heavily depend on your patience, your ability to locate deeper, more stable environments where fish congregate, and your choice of natural, slower presented baits. It's a day for the patient and strategic angler, my friends. Well, my friends, while Friday the 23rd of January 2026 isn't going to be a throw-a-line anywhere and catch fish kind of day, it's certainly not one to stay home from. With the right tactics, plenty of patience and a bit of determination, you could land a fantastic winter specimen. I wish you all tight lines and glorious catches, and may your efforts be handsomely rewarded. If you found this forecast helpful, please hit that like button, share it with your fishing buddies, and definitely subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming tips and predictions. And I want to hear from you. What are your go-to winter fishing tactics? What's the biggest fish you've caught in January? Share your observations and plans for the season in the comments below. Tight lines, and he'll see you on the water.